Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina wa Nabiyana Habibi Ilahi Rabbil Alameen Abil Qasim al-Mustafa Muhammad wa alayhi tayyibin al-tahirin al-ma'sumin al-mazlumin wa la'natu da'im ala adaihim ajma'in min alan ila qiyam yawmiddin. Amma ba'd. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to Question Time. This program is dedicated to the questions that are raised by our viewers, and we attend to them and answer them. You can email us your questions and we will reply them the week after. Or you can call us as well and leave the questions so that we could reply to your questions that were asked. As we are in the month of Rabiul Awwal, last week we kind of attended to the importance of the prophethood and the last prophet as well. We will be once again extending the discussion of prophethood and the questions that revolve around the phenomena of prophethood will be attended in our program today. The questions that in regards to the prophethood that is been raised are from two points of view. One is the requirement or the need of the prophethood itself. Why does it require that Allah send a prophet? Number one. And number two is the question of the Khatm Nabuwat, which means that the culmination of the prophethood which happened with our last prophet Muhammad ibn Abdullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Why he was considered to be the last prophet and why no prophets came after him. If you may recall, in our previous program we looked at the afzaliyat, the fazilat, the greatness, the lofty status and station of the prophet, why he is considered to be the great prophet, and we kind of answered the question that, the question is not that where people tend to say that we are not the one to really judge and we are not the really one to really say who has greater fazilat, who has not. All prophets are equal, we are not supposed to say that. Well, excuse me, that's not right, that's not the case. It's very clear, and the Quran also clearly points out to you're really re-emphasizing what the Quran is saying, and that's what we are supposed to do. When the Quran says declare your faith, there is no God but God, and that's what we do. We kind of re-emphasize that. Now the Quran says that فَضَّلْنَاهُ بَعْضُهُم بِبَعْضٍ, that God have given fazilah to some of the prophets to the others. And we looked at in detail in regards to why the prophet is considered to be the greatest among all of the prophets. We clearly pointed out to how Quran addresses the prophet, how God addresses the prophet. God have never taken the name of the prophet, but rather he has taken the name, he has taken the title of the prophet. He has addressed him as Ya ayyuhal muzammil, Ya ayyuhal muddathir, or he has called the prophet by the title such as Ya ayyuhan nabi or Ya ayyuhar rasul. He has never ever in the Quran we have seen that he has said Ya Muhammad. He has used the name Muhammad, but to just introduce the prophet as a third person singular, where he says that Ma kana Muhammadun, that Muhammad is not the father of any rajul, any male person. This was very important because the prophet had a adopted son whose name was Zayd, and people used to say that he is the son of the prophet, but God wanted to make that clear that he is not the father, biological father of any male person, rajul, right, rijal, where it has been clearly used in that verse of the Quran, and by the name of Muhammad, not by the name of Rasul or Nabi, because it was important to take the name at that time. So we see different types of fazilat, different types of honor being provided, being given to the prophet, and we say that yes, indeed he is the afzalul anbiya, he is the khatamun nabiyyin, which itself is an honor that he becomes the seal of the prophet. Now let's first discuss these questions that are raised by our viewers. So number one is the question, it says that what is the need of prophethood? Can we critically look into the aspect of providing a detailed answer in regards to the need of the prophethood according to theologians? When we look at the Abrahamic faith, we tend to find that all Abrahamic faith accepts the phenomena of prophethood. All Abrahamic faith, except, for example, we see in the case of Christianity, where we see that God in Christianity introduces Isa alayhi salam as the Word becoming flesh. So the Word have become flesh. That means Isa is the Word. This Word, which is God's Word, have turned into a form of a flesh, in the form of a physical human being. That's why he's known as the Son of God. That's according for Christians. That's why he's known as God sometimes, for instance, right? So this is how the Bible is also the book of God, and Isa alayhi salam, for them he's not the prophet of God, but he's the Word which have become flesh. He's the Son of God, or he's God, for example. They have this sort of a bit of mysterious understanding of this phenomena of Father, Son and Holy Ghost. But all of the other Abrahamic faiths, such as Judaism, such as other Abrahamic faiths that kind of believes in the Prophet, which is Old Testament, kind of talk about other Bani Israel, the Israelites, Prophet and their sort of clans and tribes and religions that came after Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam. They all believe in the phenomena or in the reality of prophethood. But the question is, why is it that this phenomena of prophethood is needed? Now obviously, when we look at the creation of God, how beautifully God has fashioned, how organized He has created, and it is not possible that God would leave this creation without a guide, without putting, without giving a direction to this, right? There is a purpose for it, there is a reason for it, and God will not let this creation destroy by its own hand without being guided, because we have clearly seen that yes, He has provided aql, there's no doubt. The other question is kind of like pointing out to that, then what is the place of aql here, what is the place of intellect here? He does have provided intellect to man, right? He has given aql to insan, but this aql, when we look at it, when we examine it in the course of man's history, we have seen that yes, it has made very fascinating discoveries, and it has really provided mankind with great support. It has helped in the progress of mankind, but at the same time it has made blunders, it has made many errors. At a given time, nuclear energy, which is a very unique and special, which could be used for the betterment of mankind and society, but at the same time we have seen it's been used in the negative way for the destruction of humanity. Atomic energy, the same. Hiroshima, Nagasaki is the best example. The energy that is considered to be very helpful, very good for the development and progress of mankind, but at the same time it was used for the negative purposes. So the aql and the intellect could sometimes make blunders and mistakes and error, in terms of when it gets sort of blinded by the power and so on and so forth. Other than that, when we look at many of these isms, you have the feminism, you have the communism, you have the capitalism, all of these ism, and the heads of these all ism are philosophers, intellectuals, and if we give benefit of doubt, we would say that all are in regards to provide rights to women in the society, to provide them with sort of help and support. That's why you have this feminism, because their rights are deprived. That's why they have to speak out loud, or Communism is a social justice, in order that there be justice, in order that there be no poverty, everybody should be equal. It's a social phenomena. It is something that we would like to govern our land, our country with this sort of government and principles. It's for the betterment of human beings. That's why they are doing this, right? Well, if we give that benefit of doubt, we agree, but at the same time we do say that they fall short. They fall short in providing humanity with that balance, with that justice, with that harmony. There's a limitation in that. So that means that the aql insan, the aql bashar, the aql of a human being, the intellect of a human being is very positive, is very good, and it kind of helps him. It is the discerning factor between him and others, and it is through this intellect that man have really progressed, developed, and have reached high levels, and this aql have helped him, but it has always fallen short. So it really requires something much more holistic, much more much more sort of powerful than this aql. Sometimes this aql can go to a certain limit and then it stops there. It needs help, and that help is given by God through the Prophet. That's why Imam Kazim alayhi salam have said in a very beautiful narration that there are two types of intellect. There is the aql which is considered to be the aql daruni, and the aql which is biruni. The aql which is inside within the human being is that intellect of a man. And then you have another type of aql which is considered as the aql which is outside, who are known to be the prophets. The prophets are hujjat zahiri, which are outside, and the aql, the Imam says, is a hujjat, is a proof of batini, which is inside. So therefore there are two types of aql or hujjat or intellect. Aql which is inside of an insan, aql which is outside. Those are the prophet. Now if this aql which is inside of an insan gets into trouble, if this aql which is inside of an insan reaches to a point of dead end, or if this aql which is inside of an insan is overpowered by the nafs, by the ego, by the power, right, then the aql which is outside kind of clears the air out, this aql which is inside. So therefore this aql which is inside should coordinate and should be on the same page of the aql which is outside, which has been sent by God. So now the aql insan requires a support from outside, and they are the prophet. Prophet tends to do that. The aql insan says that I doubt, but the aql outside is deciding something, and that is the prophet. The aql inside is something that no, I don't believe in that. Well, the Quran says that. The prophet have decided to do that. Your aql is limited, your calculation is limited. You have to accept what the prophet is saying, because he is the hujjat from God, from outside. So the error of the intellect which is within is possible, and we have seen it, and we are seeing it in the course of history of mankind. All of these different social phenomena and concepts that have come about, they all have clearly proven that they are incomplete. So it requires a support from. So that is prophethood. This is considered to be prophethood, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends guides to guide mankind to establish justice, so that they live according to the guidelines of God, and when they do so, then there will be harmony, then there will be peace, then there will be justice in the society. But if they are only governed by their own aql, by their own intellect, then there is a possibility of errors, and we have seen that. Many civilizations, they have provided great, they have contributed towards the knowledge, towards the science They indeed have. Intellectuals have contributed, philosophers have contributed, leaders, political leaders have contributed, have done great and marvelous job, but they were limited. They were all limited. They either, if we say that, okay, if they themselves were not, and they were sincere and they implemented, but those who followed, those who took those orders, those who implemented those theories, those principles, right? Mark, for example, and his principles being implemented. It's not Marx who is, leading the head of the country or something like that, right? Now these principles reaches to a point and they become limited. So what requires is a message being sent by God, a prophet being sent by God. So we see that this is the reason why a prophet is needed, because God have created the creation and humanity and society, and he's not going to let go like that. There was a prophet who wanted to call the curse of God on his people, on his community, and God stopped him. I said, why? Then he said, okay, you can do that after fulfilling what I am asking you to do. So he said, okay, take a piece of land and plant seeds in it and water it, nurture it. And then he did that, and months passed by, year passed, and now finally the time comes when they are about to give the crop, when they are about to give the fruit. When they are about to give the fruit, God says to this prophet, "Oh prophet, burn this." Then he says, well, I was anticipating for them to give me fruit. I was taking care of them. I was providing them with water. I was providing them with sunlight. I was protecting them from the wild beast or from the animals that they do not eat, for instance, right? And now it is the time that they are about to give me the fruit. Now you are asking me to burn away. So God replied to this prophet that, "Oh prophet, the same way, the creation, you have not created it. I have created it, right? And I have created it for some purpose. I just can't say that, okay, destroy them." Right? Remember that story of Moses and Pharaoh? When Pharaoh jumped into the river, into the sea, and was about drowning and asking, "Musa, help me," and he drowned. And here Musa goes to the mountain of Tur and speaks to God. Here God says to Musa, "Oh Musa, what did Pharaoh say? What was his last word?" Then here Musa replies, his last words were, "Help me, save my life." Then God replies to Musa, "Oh Musa, if he would have asked me to save his life, I would have saved his life. Because Musa, you did not create Pharaoh. It is me who have created Pharaoh. So if he would have asked me, I would have saved him." God is merciful. God knows the value of man, and God wants to save humanity and man. And that's why God will never let the creation by itself. He will send his proof. He will send his hujjat. He will send the guide, and he will guide the mankind. So that is prophethood. So it is quite important that the prophets be sent by God. The humanity will not be without a prophet. Now, prophethood is a natural phenomena. We all are, to a certain extent, prophet, but not the prophet not like the prophet was. He was Khatamun Nabiyyin, Nabbah, which comes from news. See, how the prophets became prophet? They were sincere, they were kind, they were sinless, masoom, right? Infallible, never committed a crime, never committed a sin, never committed immoral acts, and they were in search of God. They had some sort of belief, some basic belief, and then with this basic belief they practiced, and while practicing they sincerely practiced. When they started sincerely practicing it, they entered the realm of spirituality. They entered the levels of angelic realm, and finally when entered that, God took them. God, chose them, and they said, okay, now with the limited knowledge, with the previous knowledge that you had, you practice and you were sincere, you protected yourself. Now I give you extra. Because they were always thinking about God, because they were always want to do good for the mankind. They always spoke to God. They always brought their problems and issues to God. They complained to God. They connected to God. And as in the process, God chose them. And God chose them and provided them with message, provided them with what they asked for, provided them with the answers which they asked for. This is Nabi. This is what happens. So you and I as well, when we strictly practice spirituality, we protect ourselves, then we see the path and the heavens opening, and God provides us, God chooses us, God selects us and gives us a task that to be fulfilled, right? But it's the same procedure, it's the same process that we all go through. The Anbiya went through that as well. And the Prophet and the last Prophet, which we said that we'll discuss, the prophethood is discussed in the theological works on two different levels. And the Prophet further went to the highest level of downloading the treasure which required by mankind to survive till the day of judgment and to survive in the next world and excel the levels of spirituality was brought by the last Prophet. Because of his sincere efforts, because of his intense spirituality, because of his nature, because of his intellect, because of who he was, and because also what time he was sent, all requires and pointed in the direction that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam be the last Prophet. From all possibilities, from the possibility of the development of the humanity, from the possibility of the development of the humanity means that the aql bashar, the intellect of a human being, were reached to a point, the community, the humanity in the world have reached to a point that it no longer required any prophet after him. It no longer required that there be prophets sent to different corners of the globe, because the message, that's why it's known as the universal message. That's why he is known as the mercy to mankind, to all insaniyat, to all humanity. His message is a universal message. His message is for everybody. And that's what he did as well. He sent his message towards the Rome, to the Persians, to the Romans, to the Abyssinians, to the Africans. That's what we see today, that the message is spreading. There's no longer need of a new prophet or a new message as such. It is the message of the Prophet, the last testament, which is the Quran, which was sent. Now previously when we look at it, the prophets were sent with one message of Moses alayhi salam, and that message was elaborated by different prophets because of the situation or the state of humanity, it required that there be prophet going to every different village. That's why there were many prophets with the same message. Different prophets were sent to different areas and they had the same message. But here, one message, last prophet, and different teachers, an extension of this message worldwide. Because the humans have reached to that highest level of perfection in terms of their development, in terms of the expansion and extension, propagation of the message very swiftly, very freely, compared to the previous era, compared to the previous time. So the time dictated from outside that Muhammad ibn Abdullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam be the last prophet, and also we'll look at the unique aspect of the prophet himself, which made possible that he be the last prophet in after our short break. And thank you very much for joining us, and we'll continue on the question of the prophethood. Stay with us.